To our amazing viewers at Cheating Tales Lab, we'd love to hear, which part of the world are you joining us from? Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Foundation. Cole Anderson had built his life like he built everything else, methodically, deliberately, and with an iron will that had never bent for anyone. At 42, he stood 6'3" with broad shoulders that had carried the weight of his family's expectations since he was 18. His steel-gray eyes had seen combat in Afghanistan, corporate boardrooms in Chicago, and the birth of his 2 children. Nothing had broken him yet. The construction empire he'd inherited from his father had tripled under his leadership. Anderson & Sons wasn't just a company. It was a legacy carved from concrete and steel, built on the principle that a man's word was his bond. Cole's reputation in the industry was legendary, fair but unforgiving, generous to those who earned it, and absolutely ruthless to those who crossed him. His marriage to Diana had started as a fairy tale 15 years ago. She was the daughter of a prominent Chicago family, beautiful and intelligent, with a laugh that could light up any room. They'd met at a charity gala where Cole was the guest speaker, discussing his company's veteran employment program. Diana had approached him afterward, genuinely interested in his work, and Cole found himself captivated by more than just her beauty. Their early years were golden. Diana supported his long hours building the business, understanding that success required sacrifice. When Emma was born 10 years ago, followed by their son Tyler 2 years later, Cole thought he had everything a man could want. He worked 16-hour days not out of greed, but to secure their future, to build something lasting for his children. But somewhere along the way, the fairy tale had begun to crack. Diana had grown distant over the past 2 years. Cole attributed it to stress. Tyler's learning difficulties required extra attention, and Emma was becoming more independent and challenging. Diana had started spending more time with her book club, her yoga classes, her girls' nights out. Cole trusted her completely. In his world, loyalty was everything, and he'd never questioned hers. The irony wasn't lost on him now. The same unwavering trust that made him successful in business had blinded him at home. Cole's phone buzzed on his desk as he reviewed the quarterly reports. A text from Diana. Looking forward to tonight. The house will be perfect. Tonight was Diana's 38th birthday. Cole had arranged for a small gathering. Diana's sister Laura, her book club friends, and a few neighbors. Nothing extravagant, just the way Diana preferred it. He'd even hired a catering service so Diana wouldn't have to worry about cooking. As he drove home through the tree-lined streets of their Winnetka neighborhood, Cole felt the familiar satisfaction of a life well-ordered. The houses here spoke of success and stability, just like his own colonial-style home, with its perfectly manicured lawn and circular driveway. This was what he'd worked for: security, prestige, a place where his children could grow up safely. He pulled into the driveway next to Diana's white BMW, noting that Rick Hoffman's black Audi was already there. Rick was Diana's book club friend, a divorced real estate agent who'd joined the group 6 months ago. The only man in their literary circle, which had struck Cole as odd, but Diana had explained that Rick was really passionate about reading and brought interesting male perspectives to their discussions. Cole grabbed Diana's birthday gift from the passenger seat, a pair of diamond earrings from Tiffany that had cost him more than most people made in a month. He'd seen her admiring them in the store window last month, and he never forgot details like that. The house was warm and inviting when he entered, filled with the low hum of conversation and laughter. Diana appeared in the hallway, radiant in a new black dress he didn't recognize. She kissed his cheek, but her smile seemed forced, her eyes not quite meeting his. "Perfect timing," she said. "Everyone's here." Cole moved through the gathering, playing the role of the attentive husband. He chatted with Laura about her kids, discussed property values with the neighbors, and even found himself in a surprisingly engaging conversation with Rick about military history. Rick had never served, but he'd read extensively about the Afghanistan conflict and asked thoughtful questions about Cole's deployment. As the evening progressed, Cole noticed small things that nagged at him. Diana laughed too loudly at Rick's jokes. Rick seemed unusually familiar with the layout of their house, refilling his drink without asking where the ice was located. When Diana leaned over to clear plates, Rick's eyes followed her movements with an intensity that made Cole's jaw tighten. But these were subtle observations, easily dismissed. Cole had learned in the military to trust his instincts. but he'd also learned not to act on suspicion without proof. He filed the details away and continued being the perfect host. The party wound down around 10 o'clock. Guests filtered out with hugs and birthday wishes, leaving only Laura, who was helping with cleanup, and Rick, who seemed in no hurry to leave. "I should go," Rick finally said as Laura gathered her purse. "Great party, Diana." "Cole, always a pleasure." Cole watched through the front window as Rick walked to his car, noting that the man moved with a confidence that suggested he'd walked this driveway many times before. The thought struck him as odd. When had Rick been here outside of book club meetings? "He seems nice," Cole said as Diana locked the front door. "Rick?" "Yes, he's become a really good friend. Very supportive during, all the stress with Tyler's school situation." Cole nodded, though something in her tone didn't sit right. Diana had never mentioned Rick being particularly supportive about Tyler. In fact, she rarely talked about the book club members at all. As they headed upstairs, Cole's phone buzzed with a work email. A problem at the Millennium Park construction site. Nothing urgent, but something he'd need to address first thing Monday morning. He was so focused on reading the details that he almost missed Diana's sharp intake of breath. She was staring at her phone, her face pale in the hallway light. "Everything okay?" he asked. "What?" "Oh yes. Just Laura thanking me for the party." Diana's smile was too bright, too quick. She slipped her phone into her purse with a movement that seemed deliberately casual. Later, as Diana slept beside him, Cole stared at the ceiling and tried to shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in his perfectly ordered world. He'd built his life on a foundation of trust and loyalty, principles that had never failed him in business or combat. But foundations, no matter how strong, could be undermined if the ground beneath them shifted. And Cole Anderson was beginning to suspect that the ground under his marriage had been shifting for quite some time. Chapter 2. The Call That Changed Everything. The next morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Cole woke at 5:30 a.m. as always, his internal clock as precise as a military timepiece. Diana was still sleeping, her dark hair spread across the pillow, looking peaceful and beautiful. For a moment, the previous night's unease seemed foolish. He followed his routine: coffee, workout in the home gym, shower, suit. By 7 a.m., he was reviewing project schedules over breakfast while Diana got the kids ready for school. Emma bounded into the kitchen wearing her soccer uniform, her blonde hair in ponytails that swung as she moved. "Dad, can you come to my game this Saturday?" she asked, climbing onto his lap despite being almost too big for it. "Wouldn't miss it, Princess," Cole said, and meant it. No matter how busy work got, he never missed Emma's games or Tyler's school events. Tyler appeared next, quieter than his sister, struggling with his backpack straps. At 8, he was small for his age and dealt with a mild learning disability that made school challenging. Cole helped him with the straps while Diana packed lunches. "Have a good day at work," Diana said, kissing Cole goodbye. "I'll probably be late tonight. Book club is discussing the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo." Cole nodded, though he noticed she'd avoided eye contact again. "I'll handle dinner with the kids." The morning flew by in meetings and site visits. Cole's company was bidding on a major downtown project, and the presentation needed to be perfect. By afternoon, he was deep in blueprints and cost analyses, his earlier concerns pushed aside by the demands of business. At 4 p.m., his assistant knocked on his office door. "Mr. Anderson? Your wife called. She wanted to remind you about her book club tonight, and asked if you could pick up the kids." Cole frowned. Diana never called his office for routine scheduling matters. They had a shared calendar app for exactly that purpose. Did she say anything else? Just that she'd be home late. Around 11, maybe midnight. That evening, Cole picked up the kids from their after-school programs and took them for pizza at their favorite place downtown. Emma chattered about her upcoming soccer tournament while Tyler worked quietly on his homework, occasionally asking for help with reading comprehension. They were walking back to the car when Cole's phone rang. Diana's number. "Hey," he answered. "How's book club?" "Oh, fine. We're having great discussions. I just wanted to check on the kids." "They're good. We just finished dinner. Where are you meeting tonight?" "I thought book club was usually at your house." A pause. "We're at Sarah's place. You don't know her. She's new to the group." Cole was quiet for a moment. In 15 years of marriage, Diana had never been vague about her whereabouts. "Okay. Drive safe. I love you." "Love you too." But something in her voice, a tightness, a distraction, made Cole's instincts prickle. He'd heard that same tone in Afghanistan when local translators were feeding information to the Taliban. The sound of someone lying to someone they cared about. Back home, Cole helped Tyler with his math homework while Emma practiced piano. The domestic routine was comforting, but his mind kept drifting to Diana's phone call. Maybe he was being paranoid. Maybe the stress of the big project was making him suspicious of innocent behavior. At 8:30, he put the kids to bed, reading to Tyler while Emma read her own book in the next room. The house felt too quiet after they were asleep. Cole found himself wandering the rooms, noticing things he'd never paid attention to before. Diana's book club met twice a month, usually on Friday nights. But looking at the kitchen calendar, Cole realized the meetings had become more frequent, sometimes weekly, sometimes on different nights. When had that started? He opened Diana's desk in the family room, looking for book club schedules or contact information. He wasn't snooping, exactly, just trying to understand his wife's routine better. But what he found made his blood run cold. Hidden under a stack of bills was a credit card statement for an account he'd never seen before. Diana's name was on it, but the billing address was a P.O. box. The charges painted a picture that made Cole's combat-trained mind snap into tactical mode. Luxury hotels in downtown Chicago, expensive restaurants, lingerie stores, even charges for what appeared to be a weekend trip to Milwaukee last month. Diana had told him she was visiting her sick aunt in Milwaukee that weekend. He'd watched the kids while she was gone, proud of his wife's devotion to family. Cole's hands were steady as he photographed the statement with his phone, but his heart was pounding. The dates on the charges corresponded with book club nights, work conferences Diana claimed to attend, and shopping trips with her sister Laura. His phone buzzed. A text from Diana, running later than expected. "Don't wait up." Cole stared at the message, then at the credit card statement. The last charge was from yesterday, the day of Diana's birthday party. A charge at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown, timestamped at 2:47 p.m. While he'd been working, while their children had been at school, Diana had been at a luxury hotel with someone. The same day she'd planned her own birthday party, smiled at him across their dining room table, and accepted his expensive gift. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow, but Cole's expression didn't change. 15 years in construction and 4 tours in Afghanistan had taught him to control his reactions, to think strategically even when emotions threatened to overwhelm him. He was replacing the statement when he heard footsteps upstairs. Emma's voice, talking to someone. Cole climbed the stairs quietly, thinking she was probably calling out from a bad dream. But Emma's door was closed, and he could hear her talking on the phone, his old cell phone that they'd given her for emergencies. "I know, but I promised," Emma was saying. "Dad's downstairs. He doesn't know anything." Cole's blood turned to ice. He pressed his ear to the door. "She said it was important that Dad doesn't find out until..." "Until when?" "I don't understand why I can't tell him." A pause. "Okay, but I don't like lying to Dad. He's always honest with us. I know you said Mom would get in trouble, but..." Another pause, longer this time. "Rick, I'm scared. What if Dad finds out I knew? He'll never forgive me." "Rick." Diana's book club friend was talking to his 10-year-old daughter about keeping secrets from him. Cole's vision darkened around the edges. Every instinct screamed at him to burst through the door and demand answers. But his tactical training held him back. He needed more information before he acted. Emma's voice was smaller now, frightened. "You promise Mom won't get hurt? You promise Dad won't hate me?" Cole backed away from the door, his mind racing. Whatever was happening, his daughter was being manipulated into covering for Diana and Rick. Emma's loyalty to her mother was being weaponized against her own father. The betrayal was deeper than adultery. It was corruption of his child, turning his own family against him. Cole went back downstairs and poured himself 3 fingers of bourbon, his first drink in 6 months. He sat in his study, surrounded by family photos and military commendations, and planned his next move with the same cold precision he'd once used to hunt Taliban fighters in the Afghan mountains. But this enemy wasn't hiding in caves or behind roadside bombs. This enemy was sleeping in his bed, eating at his table, and turning his children into accomplices. By the time Diana came home at 12:47 a.m., smelling of unfamiliar cologne and wine, Cole had made his decision. He pretended to be asleep as she slipped into bed beside him, but his mind was wide awake, calculating and planning. Diana Anderson and Rick Hoffman had made the mistake of underestimating Cole Anderson. They'd assumed that because he loved them, he would be weak. They'd forgotten that the same man who'd built a construction empire and survived 4 combat deployments didn't forgive betrayal. They were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Chapter 3. The Discovery. 3 weeks later, Cole had transformed into a man Diana barely recognized, though she was too distracted by her own deception to notice the change. He'd become hyper-attentive to details, scheduling his days with military precision to gather intelligence on his wife's activities. The secret credit card statement had been just the beginning. Cole hired a private investigator, a former Army Ranger named Tony Castellanos who specialized in matrimonial cases. Tony's preliminary report had arrived that morning, and it painted a picture of betrayal that went back 8 months. Diana and Rick had been meeting at the Four Seasons every Tuesday and Friday. They'd taken weekend trips to Milwaukee, Nashville, and San Francisco, always when Diana claimed to be at conferences or visiting family. Most damning of all, Rick had been inside Cole's house at least 15 times when Cole wasn't home, entering through the garage with what appeared to be his own remote control. But the detail that made Cole's jaw clench was Tony's observation about the children. Emma had been seen leaving school early on 3 occasions, picked up by Rick instead of Diana. The school had Diana's permission on file, but Emma had looked uncomfortable each time. Cole was reviewing the surveillance photos when his phone rang. Diana, calling from what she claimed was her yoga class. "Hi, honey. Just wanted to let you know I'll be running errands after class. Don't wait dinner for me." Cole glanced at the photo timestamp on his desk. Diana and Rick entering the Four Seasons Hotel 30 minutes ago. "No problem. Emma has soccer practice anyway." "Great. Love you." "Love you too." The lie came easily now. Cole had discovered he had a talent for deception when the stakes were high enough. That evening, Cole was helping Tyler with homework when Emma approached him. She'd been quiet and withdrawn lately, dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always, princess." Emma sat on the couch beside him, picking at her fingernails, a nervous habit she'd developed recently. "If someone asked you to keep a secret that might hurt someone you love, what would you do?" Cole's chest tightened, but his voice remained calm. "That's a tough question. Can you tell me more about this secret?" "I can't. That's the problem." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I promised I wouldn't tell, but keeping the promise feels wrong." Cole set Tyler's math book aside and pulled Emma close. "Listen to me, sweetheart. No adult should ever ask a child to keep secrets from their parents. If someone is asking you to do that, they're asking you to do something wrong. But what if telling the secret would hurt Mom?" The question hit Cole like a punch to the gut. His 10-year-old daughter was carrying the weight of her mother's betrayal, torn between loyalty to both parents. "Emma, look at me." Cole lifted her chin so their eyes met. "Nothing you could tell me would ever make me stop loving you. You're my daughter, and that's forever. But secrets that hurt families, those aren't the kind of secrets children should have to keep." Emma burst into tears then, sobbing against his chest while Tyler watched with confused concern. Cole held her, stroking her hair, and felt his last reservation about what he planned to do evaporate. Diana had crossed the line when she involved their children. The next morning, Cole made a decision that would change everything. He called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years and drove to Emma's school. He waited in the parking lot, watching. At 11:30 a.m., Rick Hoffman's black Audi pulled up to the school entrance. Cole's hands tightened on the steering wheel as he watched his daughter emerge from the building, her backpack slung over her shoulder. She walked slowly to Rick's car, her body language radiating reluctance. Cole followed at a distance as Rick drove Emma to their house. He parked down the street and watched through binoculars as Rick used a garage remote to enter Cole's home with Cole's daughter. The violation was complete. This man wasn't just sleeping with Cole's wife. He was using Cole's house as his own and dragging Cole's daughter into the deception. Cole's phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Not feeling well. Rick picked me up from school and brought me home to rest. Don't worry about me." The message had clearly been dictated. Emma had never texted her father so formally before. Cole sat in his truck for 2 hours, watching his own house, planning his response. When Diana's BMW pulled into the driveway at 1:45 p.m., Cole's jaw clenched. She was supposed to be at work until 5. Through the binoculars, Cole watched his wife of 15 years embrace Rick Hoffman in their kitchen while their daughter sat at the table, head down, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. That night, Diana seemed lighter somehow, more affectionate than she'd been in months. She cooked Cole's favorite dinner, laughed at his stories about work, even suggested they watch a movie together after the kids went to bed. The performance was masterful, Cole had to admit. If he hadn't known what he knew, he might have thought they were getting their marriage back on track. But Cole had learned long ago that information was power, and he now had enough information to destroy both Diana and Rick completely. The question was how to use it most effectively. As they watched the movie, Diana curled against his side like she used to do when they were young and truly happy. Her phone buzzed with a text, and Cole glimpsed Rick's name on the screen before Diana quickly turned the phone face down. "Work?" Cole asked casually. Just confirming tomorrow's meeting." Another lie, so smooth and practiced that Cole wondered how long Diana had been deceiving him. Had their entire marriage been a performance? The next few days passed in a haze of false normalcy. Diana maintained her schedule of yoga, book club, and work meetings, while Cole documented every lie, every inconsistency, every moment of betrayal. But it was Emma who finally forced Cole's hand. On Thursday evening, Cole was working late in his study when he heard Emma crying in her room. He knocked softly and entered to find her sitting on her bed, tears streaming down her face. "Princess, what's wrong?" Emma looked up at him with eyes that seemed far too old for her 10 years. "Dad, I need to tell you something, but I'm scared." Cole sat beside her on the bed. "You never have to be scared to talk to me. Rick made me promise not to tell you, but I can't keep lying." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "He said if I told you about him and Mom, it would destroy our family. He said you'd blame me for not telling you sooner." Cole's vision went white around the edges. Rick Hoffman had manipulated his daughter's love for her family, twisted it into a weapon of silence and guilt. "Emma, sweetheart, listen to me very carefully," Cole said, his voice deadly calm. "Nothing you tell me will ever be your fault, and no one will ever destroy our family. I promise you that." Emma took a shaky breath. "Mom and Rick, they're in love. They meet at hotels, and they kiss, and they talk about being together all the time. Rick comes to our house when you're at work. He has a garage remote like ours. And Mom lies to you about where she's going." The words poured out of Emma like water through a broken dam. Months of secrets, confusion, and guilt that no child should have to carry. "Rick told me that if I kept their secret, Mom would be happy. But he also said that if I told you, you'd be so angry that you'd make Mom go away forever." Emma looked up at Cole with desperate eyes. "I don't want Mom to go away, but I don't want to lie to you anymore either." Cole pulled his daughter close, his heart breaking for her innocence lost, and his resolve hardening to diamond strength. "Emma, you did the right thing by telling me. And I want you to remember something. Whatever happens next, it's not because of you. It's because adults made bad choices. You're brave and honest, and I'm proud of you." That night, after Emma finally fell asleep, Cole sat in his study and made a series of phone calls. To Tony Castellanos, to his lawyer, to a contact from his military days who specialized in electronic surveillance. By morning, Cole Anderson had a plan that would make Diana and Rick wish they'd never heard his name. The time for gathering intelligence was over. The time for action had begun. Chapter 4: The Architecture of Revenge. Cole spent the next week living a double life that would have impressed any undercover operative. By day, he was the devoted husband and father, attending Emma's soccer game and helping Tyler with his reading. By night, he was orchestrating a campaign of revenge that would leave Diana and Rick's lives in ruins. His first move was purely practical. Cole met with his attorney, Michael Torres, a sharp-eyed lawyer who'd handled Cole's business contracts for years. Michael's expression grew increasingly grim as Cole laid out the evidence of Diana's affair. "The adultery gives us significant leverage in the divorce proceedings," Michael said, reviewing Tony's surveillance photos. "Illinois is a no-fault state, but adultery can still impact property division and custody arrangements." "I don't want leverage," Cole said quietly. "I want total victory." Michael looked up from the photographs. "Cole, I understand you're angry, but—" "Angry?" Cole's laugh was cold. "Michael, angry is what I felt when my deployment got extended. Angry is what I feel when a contractor tries to shortchange me. This is something else entirely." Cole leaned forward, his steel-gray eyes fixed on his lawyer. "Diana involved my children in her deception. She turned my daughter into an accomplice. That's not just adultery, it's psychological abuse of a child." Michael nodded slowly. That does change things. Judges don't look kindly on parents who manipulate children to cover up affairs. Good. Because I want full custody, the house, and enough financial compensation to ensure Diana thinks twice before trying this again with someone else. But legal revenge wasn't enough for Cole. Diana and Rick had spent months planning their deception, turning his home into their playground and his daughter into their co-conspirator. They deserved something more creative than divorce court. Cole's second move involved his business connections. A few calls to the right people revealed that Rick Hoffman's real estate agency was struggling. Rick had made several enemies in the industry with his aggressive tactics and questionable ethics. More importantly, his real estate license was up for renewal, and there had been whispers about irregular practices. Cole's military buddy, Jake Morrison, now worked for the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. Over drinks at their usual bar, Cole learned that Rick's license renewal was under review due to complaints about undisclosed conflicts of interest. The investigation's been slow, Jake said, but if someone provided specific evidence of misconduct, it would move things along. Cole smiled. What kind of specific evidence? Proof that he represented both buyers and sellers without disclosure, took kickbacks, that sort of thing. Why do you ask? Just curious about the process. That weekend, while Diana attended another fake book club meeting, Cole put his plan into motion. He'd already confirmed that Rick would be at the Four Seasons with Diana until at least midnight. Rick's apartment would be empty. Cole had learned lockpicking in the Army, a skill he'd never thought he'd use in civilian life. Rick's apartment building security was laughably easy to bypass for someone with Cole's training. Inside Rick's apartment, Cole found exactly what he was looking for: Rick's computer, financial records, and a filing cabinet full of real estate transactions. It took 2 hours to photograph everything, but the evidence was damning. Rick had been double-dipping on commissions, representing both parties without disclosure, and taking cash kickbacks from contractors. But the real prize was Rick's email account. Rick had been careless with his password, his daughter's name followed by his birth year. The emails painted a picture of a man who routinely violated real estate regulations and bragged about it to his colleagues. Cole copied everything to encrypted drives and left no trace of his presence. By the time Rick discovered his career was about to implode, it would be too late to save himself. The third phase of Cole's plan was more personal. He'd noticed that Rick drove his Audi like it was a race car, routinely speeding through school zones and residential areas. Tony's surveillance had documented numerous traffic violations that Rick had somehow avoided being ticketed for. Cole made a few strategic donations to the local police benevolent fund and struck up conversations with several officers who worked traffic detail. He mentioned, casually, that he'd noticed dangerous drivers in his neighborhood and was concerned about child safety. Within a week, Rick's commute was being watched by officers who took speeding in school zones very seriously. But Cole's most devastating move involved Diana's work situation. Diana was a marketing director at a high-end boutique advertising firm. Her job required discretion, professionalism, and absolute trust from clients who paid premium rates for their confidentiality. Cole had met Diana's boss, Margaret Chun, at several company functions. Margaret was old-school professional, the type of woman who valued reputation above all else. She'd built her agency on the promise that her employees were above reproach. Through careful research, Cole learned that Diana's agency was competing for a major account with a conservative client, a family-owned restaurant chain that prided itself on traditional values. The contract was worth over $2 million and would secure the agency's future. Cole's plan for Diana would have to wait for the perfect moment, but when that moment came, it would destroy her career as thoroughly as she destroyed their marriage. As Cole orchestrated these various revenge schemes, he maintained his perfect husband facade. He brought Diana flowers, took the family out for dinners, and even surprised her with a weekend trip to Lake Geneva, carefully scheduled for a time when Rick was out of town on business. During that weekend, Diana seemed almost like her old self. She laughed at Cole's jokes, held his hand during walks by the lake, and made love to him with a passion that felt genuine. For a moment, Cole almost wondered if he was making a mistake. But then Diana's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah from Book Club, and Cole saw Rick's name briefly flash on the screen before Diana deleted the message. The performance resumed, and Cole's resolve hardened. On their last night at the lake, as Diana slept peacefully beside him, Cole stared out at the moonlight reflecting off the water and thought about the life they'd built together. 15 years of marriage, 2 beautiful children, a successful business, and a future that had once seemed guaranteed. Diana had thrown it all away for a few months of excitement with a man who treated real estate ethics like suggestions. Cole's phone buzzed with a text from Tony. Target is back in Chicago. Resuming surveillance tomorrow. Cole deleted the message and rolled over to look at his sleeping wife. Diana's face was peaceful, unlined by guilt or worry. She truly believed she was getting away with everything. By the time Diana realized what was happening, Cole's revenge would be complete and irreversible. She destroyed their marriage with lies and deception, but Cole would end it with truth and consequences. The difference was that his approach would last forever, while hers had been built on a foundation of sand. Chapter 5. The Perfect Storm. Cole's opportunity came 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday that started like any other but would end with his enemy's lives in ruins. That morning, Diana kissed him goodbye with what seemed like genuine affection. "I'll be at the Morrison Hotel today for the restaurant account presentation," she said. "Wish me luck." Cole smiled and wished her luck, knowing that Diana wouldn't be anywhere near the Morrison Hotel. Tony's surveillance had confirmed that Tuesday was Diana and Rick's regular Four Seasons day. What Diana didn't know was that Cole had orchestrated the timing of everything that was about to happen. At 9:30 a.m., Cole called Margaret Chen's office. "Margaret, it's Cole Anderson. I hope you don't mind me calling, but I wanted to discuss something sensitive about the restaurant account presentation." Margaret's voice was warm but professional. "Of course, Cole. What's on your mind?" "I've heard through industry contacts that the Peterson family, the restaurant owners, are very particular about their vendors' personal conduct. They've dropped contractors in the past for moral issues. I just wanted to make sure Diana's prepared for that kind of scrutiny." "That's thoughtful of you, Cole. Diana's professionalism has never been questioned. She's presenting at 2 this afternoon, and I have complete confidence in her." "I'm sure she'll do wonderfully," Cole said. Diana's always been very dedicated to her work. At 10 a.m., Cole's anonymous tip to the Department of Professional Regulation triggered an immediate investigation into Rick Hoffman's real estate practices. The evidence Cole had gathered would be discovered during their official investigation. At 11:15 a.m., Rick received a call from his agency demanding an immediate meeting about irregularities in his recent transactions. At 11:30 a.m., Cole made his most important call. "Emma, sweetheart, how are you feeling today?" Emma's voice was quiet and tired. "I'm okay, Dad. Just tired of everything." "I know, Princess. And I want you to know that all the secrets and lying, it's going to end very soon. But I need you to do something important for me." "What?" "If something scary happens today, if adults start arguing or acting upset, I want you to call me immediately. Can you do that? Are you and Mom going to fight?" Cole's heart broke a little at the fear in her voice. "I don't know what's going to happen, Emma. But I promise you that whatever does happen, it's not your fault, and I'll always protect you and Tyler." "Okay, Dad. I'll call you." At 1:45 p.m., Cole put the final piece of his plan into motion. He drove to the Four Seasons Hotel and waited in the lobby, positioned where he could see the elevators but remain unobserved. At 2:10 p.m., his phone rang. "Margaret Chen." "Cole, there's been a problem with the restaurant presentation. Diana never showed up. Her assistant says she's supposed to be there, but there's no sign of her. The Peterson family is furious. They flew in from Colorado specifically for this meeting." "That's not like Diana at all," Cole said, injecting concern into his voice. "Have you tried calling her?" "Her phone goes straight to voicemail." "Cole, if we lose this account because Diana simply didn't show up." "Let me see if I can find her," Cole said. "I know she was really nervous about this presentation. Maybe she got sick and couldn't think clearly enough to call." Cole hung up and walked to the hotel's front desk. He'd learned the desk clerk's name during previous surveillance visits. "Excuse me, Jennifer. I'm looking for my wife. Diana Anderson. She's supposed to meet me here, but I think she might be registered under a different name." Jennifer smiled sympathetically. "Let me check our guest list." "No, I don't see a Diana Anderson. What does she look like?" Cole showed Jennifer a photo on his phone, a recent picture of Diana and Rick together that Tony had taken. Jennifer's expression changed. "Oh, yes, I know them. They're regular guests. They're registered under Hoffman, room 1247. Cole's performance of shocked betrayal was worthy of an Oscar. His face went white, his hands trembled slightly, and his voice cracked when he spoke. Hoffman, are you sure? Jennifer realized her mistake immediately. Sir, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. It's okay, Cole said quietly. Thank you for being honest. Cole took the elevator to the 12th floor, his heart pounding, not with fear, but with anticipation. Everything was falling into place perfectly. He knocked on the door of room 1247. Room service, he called in a disguised voice. We didn't order room service, Rick's voice called back. Cole knocked again, more insistently. Footsteps, then the sound of the security chain being removed. Rick opened the door wearing nothing but a hotel bathrobe, his hair disheveled. The color drained from Rick's face when he saw Cole standing in the hallway. Cole, what are you? How did you? Where's my wife? Cole's voice was deadly calm. Rick tried to close the door, but Cole's hand shot out and held it open with the kind of strength that came from years of construction work and military training. Diana, Cole called into the room. I think we need to talk. Diana appeared behind Rick, wrapped in a hotel sheet, her face a mask of horror and panic. Cole, please let me explain. Explain what exactly? Cole stepped into the room, forcing Rick to back up. Explain why my wife of 15 years is in a hotel room with another man while she's supposed to be at the most important presentation of her career? Diana's hand flew to her mouth. The presentation. Oh God, I forgot. You forgot. Cole's laugh was bitter. You forgot about the $2 million account that could save your agency because you were too busy fucking my daughter's soccer coach. Rick's not Emma's coach, Diana said weakly. No, you're right. Rick's just the man who's been using my house like his own, manipulating my daughter into keeping your secrets and destroying my family. Cole's voice never rose, but it carried the weight of absolute judgment. Rick tried to step forward. Look, Cole, I know this looks bad. Cole's attention fixed on Rick like a laser sight. It looks bad? You've been sleeping with my wife, using my home, involving my children in your deception, and lying to my face for months. What part of that just looks bad? Diana was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Cole, please, it's not what you think. I never meant for this to happen. I love you, I love our family. Stop. Cole's voice cut through her words like a blade. Don't say you love our family while you're standing in a hotel room, wearing a sheet, and smelling like another man. Cole's phone rang. Emma. Dad. Her voice was small and frightened. Mom never came home from work, and Rick was supposed to pick up Tyler from tutoring, but he never showed up. Tyler's been waiting for an hour. I'm scared. Cole's eyes never left Diana and Rick as he answered his daughter. It's okay, princess. I'll get Tyler right now. You stay at home and lock the doors. I'll be there in 30 minutes. He hung up and looked at the two people who had destroyed his family. My 8-year-old son has been sitting alone at his tutoring center for an hour because you two were too busy with your afternoon fuck to remember he existed. My 10-year-old daughter is home alone and scared because neither of her parents came home when they were supposed to. Diana sobbed harder. Cole, please, let me come home. Let me fix this. Cole shook his head. Diana, you made your choice. You chose Rick over Tyler. You chose hotel rooms over Emma. You chose lies over 15 years of marriage. He looked around the hotel room, taking in the champagne bucket, the scattered clothes, the unmade bed. You chose this. Cole turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Diana? Margaret Chun is expecting an explanation for why you missed the Peterson presentation. You might want to think of something good. Your job probably depends on it. He looked at Rick. And Rick? You might want to call your real estate agency. I hear there are some questions about your license renewal. Cole left them standing in their hotel room, finally seeing each other clearly in the harsh light of consequences. As he drove to pick up Tyler, Cole's phone buzzed with frantic texts from Diana, begging him to come home, to talk, to give her a chance to explain. He deleted each message without reading it completely. Diana and Rick had spent months planning their perfect deception. Cole had spent weeks planning their perfect destruction. The difference was that his plan was just getting started. Chapter 6. Unraveling. By the time Cole returned home with Tyler, Diana's BMW was in the driveway. She'd beaten him there, probably breaking several traffic laws in her panic to get home before he could talk to the children. Tyler ran straight to Emma, the siblings hugging each other with the instinctive need for comfort that children have when they sense their world is falling apart. Cole watched them from the doorway, his heart aching for their innocence lost. Diana emerged from the kitchen, having changed into her normal clothes and attempted to repair her makeup. Her eyes were red from crying, but she'd composed herself into a semblance of the wife and mother she was supposed to be. "Kids, go upstairs and start your homework," she said with forced calm. "Dad and I need to talk." Emma looked between her parents with wide, knowing eyes. "Are you going to get divorced?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire. "We're going to work things out," Diana said quickly. "Everything's going to be fine." But Emma was looking at Cole, not Diana. Cole knelt down to his daughter's eye level. "Emma, Tyler, things are going to change in our family. But you need to know that whatever happens between Mom and me, it has nothing to do with you. We both love you more than anything in the world." Tyler's lip trembled. "Are you leaving us, Dad?" "I'm not going anywhere, buddy. I promise." After the children went upstairs, Diana and Cole faced each other in their living room. The same room where they'd celebrated birthdays, Christmas mornings, and countless family moments that now felt like lies. "Cole, please let me explain," Diana began. "Explain what? That you forgot our son at his tutoring center because you were in bed with Rick? That you've been lying to me for months? That you turned our daughter into your accomplice?" Diana flinched at each accusation. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to hurt the children. But you did hurt them." Tyler sat alone for an hour wondering why no one cared enough to pick him up. "Emma has been carrying the weight of your secrets for weeks. She's been afraid to tell me the truth because Rick convinced her it would destroy our family. Rick never meant." "Don't." Cole's voice was sharp. "Don't defend him to me. Not in our house. Not after what he's done to our children." Diana sat heavily on the couch, her perfect composure finally cracking. "I don't know how it started. I was lonely, you were always working, and Rick was just there. He listened to me. He made me feel beautiful again. I was working to build something for our family. For you and the kids. Every 16-hour day, every weekend at the office, it was all for us. But you were never here, Cole. When was the last time we talked about something other than your work or the kids' schedules? When was the last time you looked at me like you really saw me?" Cole stared at his wife of 15 years, searching for the woman he'd fallen in love with. "When was the last time you were here to be seen? You've been living a double life for months, Diana. How was I supposed to connect with someone who was lying to me every day? It wasn't all lies. I do love you. I love our family. You love the idea of our family. The house, the security, the respectability. But you don't love the work it takes to maintain a marriage. You don't love the sacrifice, the compromise, the putting your family before your own desires." Diana's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it instinctively, and Cole saw Rick's name on the screen. "He's texting you. Right now? While you're trying to save our marriage, he's texting you." Diana looked at the phone like it was a snake. "I'll delete his number. I'll never see him again. Cole, please, give me another chance. Give us another chance." Cole walked to the window and looked out at their neighborhood, the same streets where he'd planned to grow old with Diana, where he'd imagined their grandchildren playing someday. "Do you know what the worst part is?" he said quietly. "It's not that you cheated. It's that you made our daughter complicit in it. You let Emma carry the weight of your lies. You let her think that keeping your secrets was more important than being honest with her father. I never asked Emma to lie for me. You didn't have to ask. Rick convinced her that telling me the truth would destroy our family. A 10-year-old girl has been protecting your affair, Diana. She's been choosing between her parents every day for weeks." Cole turned back to face his wife. "That's unforgivable." Diana's composure shattered completely then. She sobbed with the kind of desperate grief that comes from knowing you've lost something precious through your own actions. "Cole, please. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Just don't give up on us. I gave you 15 years of my life, Diana. I gave you my trust, my love, my fidelity. I built my whole world around you and our children. And you gave it all away for a few months with a man who doesn't even have the decency to pick up our son when he promises to." Cole's phone rang. Tony Castellanos. "Excuse me," Cole said to Diana, answering the call. "It's done." Tony's voice was grim. "Rick's real estate license has been suspended pending investigation. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 years of fraudulent practices. He'll be lucky if he doesn't face criminal charges. And his agency? Fired him this afternoon. They're trying to distance themselves from the scandal. His career is over, Cole." "Thank you, Tony." Cole hung up and looked at Diana, who had stopped crying and was watching him with growing realization. "What was that about?" she asked. "Rick's real estate career just ended. Permanently. Diana's face went white. What did you do? I exposed the truth. Something you might want to try sometime. Cole, you can't destroy people's lives just because you're angry. I didn't destroy anything, Diana. Rick destroyed his own career with his illegal practices. I just made sure the authorities found out about them. Cole's phone buzzed with another call. Margaret Chun. Cole, I'm sorry to bother you at home, but I need to speak with Diana. The Peterson account is lost. They're refusing to work with our agency after today's debacle. I need to understand what happened. Cole looked at Diana. Your boss wants to talk to you about the $2 million account you cost them today. Diana's hands were shaking as she took the phone. Margaret? I'm so sorry about today. I got food poisoning and… Cole couldn't hear Margaret's response, but he could see Diana's face growing paler with each word. Yes, I understand. Tomorrow morning. I'll be there. Diana hung up and looked at Cole with desperate eyes. I might lose my job. Actions have consequences, Diana. You chose to meet Rick instead of doing your job. You chose to ignore your responsibilities. These are the consequences. You're destroying everything we built together. No, Cole said quietly. You destroyed it. I'm just making sure everyone sees the damage clearly. Upstairs, Cole could hear Emma and Tyler talking in worried whispers. Their children were listening to their parents' marriage dissolve, trying to understand how their safe, stable world had collapsed in a single afternoon. Cole looked at Diana, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. The woman he'd married would never have put their children through this pain. The woman he'd married would never have chosen a hotel room over her family's needs. I want you out of the house tonight, Cole said. Cole, please. Tonight, Diana. Pack a bag and go to your sister's. Go to Rick's. Go wherever you want. But I won't have you in this house pretending to be a wife and mother while you're texting your lover. Diana started to argue, then seemed to realize the futility of it. She looked around their living room like she was seeing it for the last time. What about the children? The children will stay with me, where they're safe from your lies. As Diana went upstairs to pack, Cole called his lawyer. The papers would be filed tomorrow morning. The divorce proceedings would be swift and brutal, especially with the evidence Tony had gathered. Diana came downstairs 30 minutes later with a suitcase and her purse. She stopped at the door, tears streaming down her face. Cole, I still love you. I know you think you do. But love doesn't look like this, Diana. Love doesn't sacrifice children for selfish desires. Love doesn't build a life on lies. After Diana left, Cole went upstairs to check on his children. Emma was sitting on Tyler's bed, reading to him from a picture book they'd outgrown years ago. They looked up when he entered, their faces full of questions they were afraid to ask. Mom's going to stay at Aunt Laura's for a while, Cole said gently. She'll still see you, but things are going to be different. Because of the secrets? Emma asked quietly. Because of the choices people made. But you too, you're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Tyler crawled into Cole's lap, seeking the comfort and security that only his father could provide. Emma joined them, and they sat together in the quiet certainty that whatever came next, they would face it as a family. Outside, the life Diana and Rick had built on lies was crumbling to dust. But inside, in the room where his children needed him most, Cole began building something new, something honest, something real, something that would last. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. 2 weeks after Diana moved out, Cole's campaign of destruction reached its crescendo. Rick Hoffman had gone from successful real estate agent to unemployed pariah in a matter of days. His license suspension had become a full revocation when the state investigation uncovered 3 years of systematic fraud. Without income and facing potential criminal charges, Rick had been forced to sell his downtown condo and move back in with his elderly parents in Naperville. Diana's fall had been equally swift, but more public. Margaret Chun had fired her the morning after the missed Peterson presentation, citing gross professional misconduct and breach of fiduciary duty. Word traveled fast in Chicago's tight-knit advertising community. Within a week, Diana was unemployable at any reputable agency in the city. But Cole's masterpiece of revenge was yet to come. On a Tuesday morning that dawned clear and cold, Cole sat in his lawyer's office reviewing the final divorce settlement. Michael Torres spread the papers across his mahogany desk with the satisfaction of a general displaying captured enemy flags. Full custody of both children, the house, Cole's business assets protected, and Diana gets minimal spousal support for only 2 years, Michael summarized. The adultery evidence was so overwhelming that even her lawyer advised her to accept these terms rather than fight in court. Cole nodded, but his expression remained grim. What about Rick's situation? The criminal investigation is moving forward. The state's attorney believes they have enough evidence for wire fraud charges. Rick's looking at possible jail time. Good. Michael studied his client carefully. Cole, I have to ask, are you satisfied with this outcome? Because what you've accomplished here, it's total victory. Most men in your situation would be celebrating. Cole looked out the window at the Chicago skyline, thinking about Emma and Tyler, who were adapting to their new reality with the resilience of children, but still asked when Mommy was coming home. There's one more thing I need to do, Cole said. That afternoon, Cole drove to a small apartment complex in Schaumburg where Diana had been forced to move after losing her job and her share of their assets. The building was a far cry from their Winnetka home. Utilitarian, cramped, the kind of place where people landed when their better options had evaporated. Diana answered her door looking older than her 38 years. She'd lost weight, dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. The designer clothes had been replaced by jeans and a Northwestern University sweatshirt that Cole remembered buying her for Christmas 3 years ago. Cole. Her voice was barely a whisper. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Diana stepped aside to let him enter. The apartment was spartanly furnished. A few pieces she'd salvaged from their marriage, some items that looked like they'd come from discount stores. The contrast to their former life was stark and intentional on Cole's part. Would you like some coffee? Diana asked, playing hostess in her diminished circumstances. No. They sat across from each other in her tiny living room, the silence heavy with 15 years of history and months of betrayal. The divorce papers are ready, Cole said. You'll get copies tomorrow. Diana nodded, her hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl awaiting punishment. I heard about Rick's arrest. Wire fraud, conspiracy, violations of state regulations. He'll probably do 18 months minimum. Cole, I need you to know, I never knew about his business practices. I had no idea he was breaking the law. You had no idea about a lot of things, apparently, including how to be a wife and mother. Diana flinched, but didn't argue. How are the children? They're adapting. Emma's grades have improved since you left. Tyler's been sleeping through the night for the first time in months. Amazing what happens when children don't have to carry the weight of adult lies. I miss them so much it physically hurts. You'll see them every other weekend, supervised visits for the first 6 months. After that, we'll reassess based on your behavior and stability. Diana's composure cracked slightly. Supervised visits? Cole, I'm their mother. I made mistakes, but I love them. You involved Emma in your affair. You manipulated a 10-year-old into keeping secrets that hurt her family. That's not love, Diana. That's abuse. The word hung between them like a blade. Diana had spent weeks in therapy trying to understand how her life had imploded so completely, but hearing Cole state it so bluntly stripped away her remaining illusions. I never meant to hurt them. I was just trying to protect. Protect what? Your affair? Your lies? You weren't protecting anyone, Diana. You were protecting yourself at your children's expense. Cole leaned forward, his gray eyes fixed on his wife's face. Do you want to know what Emma asked me yesterday? Diana nodded, tears already forming. She asked if it was her fault that Mommy went away. She asked if she should have kept your secrets better. My 10-year-old daughter thinks she failed you by telling me the truth. Diana broke down completely then, sobbing with the kind of grief that comes from finally understanding the true cost of your choices. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Cole. I would do anything to take it back. But you can't. That's the thing about choices, Diana. Once you make them, you have to live with the consequences forever. Cole stood to leave, then paused at the door. There's something else you need to know. Diana looked up through her tears. Rick called me yesterday. From jail. Diana's face went white. What did he say? He wanted to make a deal. He offered to testify that you knew about his illegal practices, that you helped him cover them up, in exchange for a reduced sentence. That's not true. I know it's not true. But Rick is exactly the kind of man who would destroy you to save himself. The same man you chose over your family. Cole watched Diana process this information, watched her realize that the man she'd sacrificed everything for would betray her without hesitation to avoid prison. What did you tell him? I told him that you're not worth destroying anymore. That you've already lost everything that mattered. Cole opened the door, then turned back one final time. Diana, I loved you for 15 years. I gave you everything I had, my trust, my loyalty, my future. I built my life around you and our children. And you threw it away for a few months with a man who's now trying to send you to prison to save himself. Diana was crying too hard to respond. I wanted you to know that. I wanted you to understand exactly what you lost and exactly what you chose instead. Cole left Diana in her small apartment, surrounded by the ruins of the life she'd destroyed. As he drove home to his children, his real family, he felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Diana and Rick had spent months planning their deception, thinking they were clever enough to have their affair without consequences. They'd underestimated Cole Anderson, forgotten that the same man who'd built a construction empire and survived 4 combat deployments didn't forgive betrayal. Now Rick was facing prison time, Diana was unemployed and alone, and Cole had his children and his honor intact. The balance had been restored through truth, consequences, and the kind of ruthless planning that his enemies should have expected from him. Some men might have felt guilty about the thoroughness of his revenge. Cole felt only satisfaction that justice had been served and his children protected from those who would manipulate and deceive them. The war was over. Cole Anderson had won completely. Chapter 8. 3 months later. Spring had arrived in Chicago with the kind of brutal beauty that made residents forget the harsh winter they'd endured. Cole stood in his backyard, watching Emma kick soccer balls into the net he'd installed, her laughter carrying across the yard like music. Tyler sat at the patio table, carefully working through his reading homework with the focus and confidence he'd gained since Diana left. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted from its foundation. Gone was the tension that had permeated every room during Diana's months of deception. In its place was something Cole had almost forgotten existed: genuine peace. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister Katie, who lived in Denver. Kids still doing well? Still think you should consider dating again. Cole smiled and ignored the message. Katie meant well, but she didn't understand that Cole's definition of success had changed completely. He measured victory now in Tyler's improved grades, Emma's return to her sunny personality, and the quiet satisfaction of a home built on truth rather than lies. The divorce had been finalized 6 weeks ago. Diana's supervised visits with the children had been awkward and painful for everyone involved. She'd cry when she picked them up and cry when she dropped them off, unable to understand why her children seemed increasingly distant from her. Emma had finally asked Cole why Mommy always seemed sad, and Cole had given her the truth in terms a 10-year-old could understand. Sometimes when people make bad choices, they feel sorry afterward. But feeling sorry doesn't fix the hurt they caused. Rick Hoffman had been sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for wire fraud and conspiracy. His trial had been brief and decisive. The evidence Cole had gathered was ironclad, and Rick's lawyer had advised him to plead guilty and hope for leniency. He'd gotten none. During sentencing, Rick had actually tried to blame Diana for his downfall, claiming she distracted him from his business obligations. The judge had been unimpressed with this defense and had added 6 months to Rick's sentence for lack of remorse and failure to accept responsibility. Diana had attended the sentencing, sitting in the back of the courtroom like a ghost. Cole had seen her there, but hadn't acknowledged her presence. Rick's betrayal of her trust had been swift and complete, exactly what Cole had expected from a man with no honor. But the most satisfying aspect of Cole's victory wasn't Rick's imprisonment or Diana's exile. It was the transformation he'd seen in his children. Emma had stopped having nightmares about keeping secrets. She laughed more freely, talked openly about her feelings, and had even made new friends on her soccer team. Most importantly, she'd stopped apologizing for things that weren't her fault, a habit she'd developed during the months of carrying her mother's secrets. Tyler's improvement had been even more dramatic. Without the stress of his parents' failing marriage hanging over him, his learning difficulties had become more manageable. He was reading at grade level for the first time in his life and had started making jokes at dinner, something Cole hadn't heard in over a year. "Dad," Emma called from the yard. "Come play with us." Cole set aside his laptop and joined his children. For the next hour, they played soccer, worked on Tyler's bicycle riding, and simply enjoyed being a family without the shadow of lies and betrayal hanging over them. As evening approached, Cole made dinner while the kids finished their homework. This had become their routine. Simple, honest, and built on the foundation of mutual trust and respect. During dinner, Emma brought up a subject that had been weighing on her mind. "Dad, Stephanie's mom asked if we wanted to come to their lake house this weekend. Can we go?" Cole considered the invitation. Stephanie was Emma's best friend, and her mother Jennifer was a single parent who'd become a good friend to Cole over the years. "That sounds like fun. What do you think, Tyler?" Tyler nodded enthusiastically. "Can I bring my fishing pole?" "Of course." As they discussed weekend plans, Cole's phone rang. Diana's number. The kids went quiet, both looking at Cole with the anxious expressions they developed whenever their mother contacted them. "Hello, Diana." "Cole, I need to talk to you about something important." Her voice was shaky, desperate in a way that had become familiar. "If it's about the children, we can discuss it briefly. If it's about us, there's nothing to discuss." "It's about both. Cole, I've been going to therapy, working on myself. I understand now what I did wrong, how I hurt everyone. I want to make amends." Cole walked into his study, away from the children's hearing. "Amends? I want to try again. Not with our marriage. I know that's over. But with being a mother. I want to be better for Emma and Tyler. Diana, you see them every other weekend. But it's not the same. They're so distant, so careful around me. Emma barely talks, and Tyler acts like he's afraid of me. I've lost my children, Cole." Cole looked through his study window at Emma and Tyler, who were now laughing over some shared joke while they cleared the dinner table. They looked happy, secure, unburdened by adult problems. "You didn't lose them, Diana. You chose Rick over them. There's a difference. But I can choose differently now. I can be the mother they deserve. The mother they deserve wouldn't have manipulated them into keeping secrets. The mother they deserve wouldn't have forgotten to pick them up from school because she was in bed with her lover." Diana was crying now. "Please, Cole, I'm begging you. Give me another chance to be their mother." Cole considered his response carefully. Diana's pain was real, but so was the damage she'd done to their children. "Diana, listen to me very carefully. Emma and Tyler are happy now. They're thriving. They sleep through the night. They're doing well in school, and they're not carrying the weight of adult lies anymore. I will not jeopardize their well-being to ease your guilt. I'm not asking you to jeopardize anything. I'm asking you to let me be better. You had 15 years to be better. You chose to be worse instead." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Cole, do you think they'll ever forgive me?" It was the first time Diana had asked a question that wasn't about what she wanted, but about what her children needed. "I don't know, Diana. Children are resilient, but they're not required to forgive parents who hurt them. If you want their forgiveness, you'll have to earn it through years of consistent, honest behavior. Not months, years. I understand. Do you? Because earning their trust back means accepting that they might never fully trust you again. It means proving through actions, not words, that you've changed. It means putting their needs before your guilt and your loneliness." Another long pause. "I'll try, Cole. I promise I'll try." "Then try. But understand that trying isn't the same as succeeding, and their healing doesn't depend on your redemption." After Cole hung up, he returned to the kitchen where Emma and Tyler were finishing their homework. They looked up at him with the same question in their eyes. "Mom wants to be a better mom," Cole said simply. "We'll see if she means it this time." Emma nodded solemnly. "Are you going to let her try? What do you think we should do?" Emma considered this with the seriousness of a child who'd been forced to grow up too quickly. I think if she really means it, she should prove it before we have to trust her again." Cole smiled at his daughter's wisdom. "That's exactly right, Princess." That night, after the children were asleep, Cole sat in his study and reflected on the past few months. Diana's call had reminded him that revenge, no matter how complete, wasn't the same as resolution. He'd destroyed her life and Rick's, protected his children, and rebuilt his family on a foundation of truth. But Diana's journey, her path toward redemption or further self-destruction, was her own to walk. Cole's job was to protect Emma and Tyler while allowing them to make their own choices about forgiveness when they were old enough and strong enough to do so. For now, it was enough that his children were safe, happy, and free from the burden of adult deception. Everything else was just noise. Chapter 9, The Final Judgment. 1 year later, Cole stood in his backyard watching Emma score the winning goal in her championship soccer game. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Cole's eyes were fixed on his daughter's face, radiant with joy and confidence, the face of a child who knew she was loved unconditionally. Tyler ran onto the field with the other siblings, tackling Emma in a celebratory hug that sent them both tumbling to the grass in laughter. Cole captured the moment on his phone, another memory to add to the collection he'd been building of their life after the lies. As the team celebrated, Cole noticed Diana standing at the far edge of the field. She'd been coming to Emma's games for the past 6 months, keeping her distance but showing up consistently. True to her word, she'd been trying to prove herself through actions rather than promises. Diana had gotten a job at a small marketing firm in the suburbs, entry-level work that paid a fraction of her previous salary but allowed her to slowly rebuild her career. She'd moved to a better apartment closer to the children's school and had completed an intensive therapy program focused on understanding the impact of her choices. Most importantly, she'd stopped asking for things she hadn't earned. After the team's celebration wound down, Emma jogged over to where Diana was standing. Cole watched his daughter approach her mother with polite distance. Not the warm affection of the past, but not the fear that had characterized their early post-divorce interactions either. "Good game, sweetheart," Diana said softly. "That last goal was incredible." "Thanks." Emma's response was cordial but guarded. "Are you coming to Tyler's school play next week?" "If you'd like me to be there." Emma considered this with the careful deliberation she'd developed when dealing with her mother. "Tyler wants you to come. So do I think." It was progress, Cole realized. Not forgiveness. That might never come completely, but a tentative willingness to allow Diana back into the edges of their lives. Diana's eyes filled with tears at this small gift of inclusion. "I'll be there. Front row." "Okay. But if you make Tyler sad, I'll ask Dad to make you leave." Diana nodded, accepting the condition with the grace of someone who understood she had no right to demand unconditional trust. Later that evening, Cole sat in his study reviewing architectural plans for a new project when his phone rang. An unfamiliar number. "Cole Anderson." "Mr. Anderson, this is David Chun from the Illinois State Penitentiary. I'm calling regarding Rick Hoffman." Cole's attention sharpened. "What about him?" "Mr. Hoffman was found dead in his cell this morning. Apparent suicide. He left a letter specifically addressed to you." Cole felt no satisfaction at this news, only a hollow sense of completion. "What does the letter say?" "We can't read it to you over the phone, but we can mail it to you if you'd like. It's been cleared by our security department." "Send it." 3 days later, Cole held Rick Hoffman's final letter in his hands. The handwriting was shaky, desperate, nothing like the confident scrawl Cole remembered from real estate documents. "Cole, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed you to know that you were right about everything. I am exactly the kind of man who would destroy someone else to save myself. I tried to blame Diana for my crimes because I couldn't face the truth about who I really was. I've had a year in here to think about what I did to your family. Not just the affair, that was bad enough, but what I did to your kids. I convinced Emma to lie to you because I was a coward who couldn't face the consequences of my actions. I manipulated a little girl's love for her family and turned it into a weapon against her own father. That's unforgivable. I know that now. Diana loved you, you know. Even when she was with me, she talked about you constantly, your integrity, your strength, your devotion to your children. She knew what she was giving up. She just couldn't stop herself from doing it anyway. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that your kids deserve better than both of us gave them. They deserve a father like you, someone who puts their welfare before his own desires. Take care of them. They're lucky to have you. Rick." Cole read the letter twice, then fed it into his paper shredder. Rick's final attempt at redemption was too little, too late, and Cole had no interest in carrying the weight of a dead man's guilt. That weekend, Cole took Emma and Tyler to the lake house with Jennifer and her daughter Stephanie. It had become a regular tradition, 2 single parents creating the kind of family experiences their children deserved. As Cole watched his children swim and play in the clear water, Jennifer joined him on the dock. "Diana called me yesterday," Jennifer said carefully. "She asked if I thought you'd ever consider giving her another chance." Cole continued watching his children. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that wasn't my question to answer. But I also told her that forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation, and that she might want to focus on being the best mother she can be from where she is rather than trying to get back what she lost." Cole nodded. Jennifer understood the situation better than most. Her own ex-husband had abandoned their family for another woman. leaving her to rebuild their daughter's sense of security from scratch. The kids seem happier, Jennifer observed. They are happier. They're not walking on eggshells anymore, not carrying secrets that aren't theirs to bear. And you? Cole considered the question. A year ago, he'd been focused on revenge, on making Diana and Rick pay for their betrayal. Now, his energy was channeled into building something positive, a stable home for his children, a successful business, and relationships built on honesty and mutual respect. I'm at peace, he said finally. I protected my children from people who would have continued to hurt them. I made sure that actions had consequences, and I built something better from the ashes of what they destroyed. That evening, as they drove home from the lake, Emma asked a question that surprised Cole. Dad, do you think Mom will ever be happy again? Cole glanced at his daughter in the rearview mirror. Why do you ask, Princess? She always looks so sad when she sees us, like she's carrying something heavy. From the wisdom of a 10-year-old came a truth that Cole had been avoiding. Diana's punishment had been complete and permanent. She would carry the weight of her choices for the rest of her life, watching her children grow up from a distance, knowing that she'd traded their trust for a few months of excitement with a man who'd ultimately betrayed her as thoroughly as she'd betrayed Cole. I think Mom made choices that hurt a lot of people, including herself, Cole said carefully. Whether she finds happiness again depends on whether she can learn to live with those choices and make better ones going forward. Do you want her to be happy? Tyler asked from his booster seat. Cole considered his response. A year ago, he would have said no without hesitation. But watching his children navigate their complex feelings about their mother had reminded him that revenge was a tool, not a way of life. I want her to be a good mother to you too, whatever that looks like. If she can be happy while doing that, then yes, I hope she finds happiness. It was the truth, Cole realized. His war with Diana and Rick was over. He'd won completely. His children were safe, his honor was intact, and his enemies had faced the full consequences of their betrayal. Anything beyond that was unnecessary cruelty. As they pulled into their driveway, Cole felt the deep satisfaction of a man who'd protected what mattered most and built something lasting from the ruins of betrayal. Emma and Tyler were thriving. Diana was learning the true cost of her choices, and Rick Hoffman was beyond redemption or revenge. The last call that had ended his old life had also begun his new one, a life built on truth, consequence, and the unshakable foundation of a father's love for his children. Some men might have chosen forgiveness. Cole Anderson had chosen justice instead, and he would live with that choice for the rest of his life. Just as Diana would live with hers, and Rick had died with his. In the end, that was enough. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.